The point that I'm trying to make to you is this. He is walking over. He's at Golden State's bench. And oh, by the way, this is the same Russell Westbrook that was on the team. It wasn't just Kevin Durant that lost that 3-1 lead. It was Russell Westbrook, too. It wasn't. Russell Westbrook was on that floor last year when Dame Time waved goodbye to him. Listen, all I'm trying to say to you is that it gets to a point where it ain't about everybody else. It's about you, your greatness. He's that great. Be great.
Right. But
be great.
This is
period.
So here we are again talking about the Rockets. I've already made a video similar to this about James Harden, and I had some criticisms about him and why I believed he wouldn't win a championship. And as you can see, Houston fans did not like that video. But with that being said, we're going to be talking about Russell Westbrook. Russ won the MVP back in 2017 while becoming the first player since Oscar Robertson to average a triple-double for a whole season, which he went on to do 2 more times. He's a 9-time All-Star, 8-time All-NBA, with 2 of those being first-team selections, 2-time scoring champion, and 2-time steals leader. But over his career, his ability to win has been in question, especially in the last 3 seasons without Kevin Durant. And so today we're going to be talking about his career, his play style, and determine whether he'll win a championship in Houston or not. But before we begin, if you're new here, I'm Double D. I'm a huge basketball fan and I make NBA videos here on YouTube every week. So if you're also an NBA fan, or just a basketball fan in general, feel free to hit the sub button and click the bell to be notified when I upload. Alright, let's get into the video. If you've been following the NBA for the last few years, then you'd probably know that there's oftentimes more negativity and criticism surrounding Russell Westbrook than ever before. And it almost seems like all that negativity is taking away what he's actually been doing. Russell Westbrook in his career averages 23.2 points, 7.1 rebounds, 8.3 assists, and 1.8 steals, and shoots 44% from the field and 30% from 3. But in the last 4 seasons, he's averaging 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists on 44% overall and 31% from 3. Like, it's actually insane what this guy's been doing. But of course, everything always comes back to his performance in the playoffs, as he hasn't gotten out of the first round since Kevin Durant left OKC. He's gotten bounced by James Harden and the Rockets in a lopsided series. He's gotten bounced by a Utah Jazz team led by a rookie Donovan Mitchell, with what people were now calling a super team with him, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony, and getting beaten 4-1 in a series capped off with Damian Lillard's bad shot in a 50-point game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bad shot. Care what anybody says, that's a bad shot. But hey, he made it. That story won't be told that it was a bad shot. We live with that.
At which point, memes started flying everywhere throughout the internet and led to video titles like these. And while yes, he does deserve some blame for these losses, we also need to realize that he's a once-in-a-generation talent. But with all that being said, people still question his greatness and his talent. Him being traded to Houston has been met with questions as to whether him and James Harden can actually win together. Because while they're both MVP winners in their primes, their playstyles don't fit together. And so this season we've seen Westbrook take a more backseat role than usual. And by the way, I'm using the word backseat very loosely, as he's still averaging 27.5 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists, and he's shooting 47%. But compared to Harden, it's considered a backseat. And so with all that being said, and with the moves the Rockets made before the trade deadline, can this team actually win a ring? Well, to answer this, there's 2 main things that we need to talk about first, and those are Houston's roster and James Harden.
You have to be able to protect the paint, okay? And without having a big, you saw last night. I mean, it was a layup drill for the Lakers, okay? Layup drill. And the plan that the Lakers had defensively, that's where you get in trouble. Because if you can control the paint, right, you can get rebounds. It doesn't matter how many threes they make. It doesn't matter. You just have to make sure they're not getting layups. And the reason why the Lakers lost that game last night is because they gave up 26 points in transition, which were layups, and the Houston Rockets made 10 more threes.
So overall, Houston's general manager Daryl Morey has made some questionable decisions, to say the least.
So both the eye test, because he looks amazing. I think anyone watched him, but if you looked at data at the time, once he had the ball in his hands, and it's still true to this day, and I get a lot of because someone asked me who's a better scorer, him or Michael Jordan, and it's just factual that James Harden is a better scorer than Michael Jordan.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
But I really need to stop sending shots at James Harden. But anyway, One of those questionable decisions was trading Clint Capella to go entirely small ball. Clint Capella was averaging 14 points and 14 rebounds and was one of the best rim protectors in the league. This would make their starting lineup Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Robert Covington, Daniel House, and PJ Tucker. The tallest player in that lineup being Robert Covington at 6'7", but with PJ Tucker running center, with it being apparent that they're trying to take a page out of Golden State's book by doing this. The similarity being the Warriors running Draymond Green at center in their small ball lineup. And it's actually been working out okay for them. They played 14 games with this lineup, and in these 14 games, they've had an 8-6 record, which includes wins against the Lakers, Celtics, and Jazz. And while yes, that's decent, they also had a 4-game losing streak before the suspension of the season, with one of those losses coming to the Knicks. And so people have started to raise the question of whether this can actually work come playoff time. Because the way that their roster is set up right now basically puts even more responsibility on James Harden and Russell Westbrook than they had before, which we'll go into detail on later. But this also gives teams the opportunity to be able to focus on just these two since they're the main pieces of the offense. So now, I believe they may be even easier to guard since they got rid of Clint Capella. Because while they are trying to copy Golden State with this lineup, they'll never be able to copy Golden State's actual style of play, which was the reason they were so successful. Constant ball movement and player movement were the main reason they were so difficult to guard during their run. And part of it was their roster, but the bigger part was how they used it. The way I see it, Houston doesn't have the game plan to effectively model their game after Golden State, which is what people assume they're trying to do. But also they just don't have the personnel to do it. The reason I say they may be even more beatable now without having Clint Capella is because he was a huge part of their defense and their offense. With him, they had a huge presence in the paint while also being primarily a three-point shooting team. And this was great for them as this gave James Harden more options to go to, with lobs to Capella being really common over the last few years. But now without him there providing a paint presence, they can space the floor more, but they really only have two options, which is kicking out to shooters or taking the shot themselves. And while it's working in the regular season, it may not work in the playoffs where, the other team sees you multiple times in a few weeks and is studying everything you do, especially if you face a good team, which they likely will since they were the 6th seed. But in addition to this becoming a huge problem for their team play, this also magnifies the flaws in both James Harden's and Russell Westbrook's games. So the main problem with Houston right now is actually, believe it or not, Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Because while yes, they are both superstars and it seems to be working in the regular season, like I said before, there's really no indication that their system will work come playoff time. With James Harden being the main ball handler on most possessions, this also turns everyone else into spot-up shooters, including Russell Westbrook. Because while he's moving around and cutting off ball more, he still spends a lot of time standing on the three-point line, which isn't his game at all. This season, Russell Westbrook is shooting 27% on all jump shots and 25% on threes overall. But since the trade deadline, we've seen him handling the ball a lot more, and this has led to him putting up some of the best numbers we've seen from him all season. Since the trade deadline, he's averaging 32 points, 8 rebounds, 5.5 assists, and 1.7 steals, and he's shooting 54.6% from the field and 38.5% from 3. And if you know Russell Westbrook, you know that this efficiency is almost unheard of from him. So overall, he's been playing great, but it all depends on what the team actually does in the playoffs. Because like I said before, they would likely get figured out quickly if they play a good team. And so I also feel like they would have a lot of difficulty contending with a lot of top teams in the West. Teams at the top of the conference like the Lakers and Clippers have a lot of good defense, both interior and perimeter. With the Lakers, you have guys like Anthony Davis, JaVale McGee, Danny Green, Avery Bradley, Dwight Howard, and Markieff Morris. And the Clippers have guys like Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Montrezl Harrell, JaMychal Green, and Patrick Beverley. There are other teams that could give them problems in the West, but the Lakers and Clippers are the two main teams to focus on if we're talking about winning a championship or even making the finals. And with the way they play, I just can't see them getting past either one of those teams. And this isn't a knock to the Rockets because they're a good team, they're just not one of the best teams in the conference. That combined with the fact that they literally have no centers on their roster basically makes it so that the guys on the three-point line have to live or die by the three. And while it works occasionally for Houston because they shoot so many, it has also led to their downfall at times. So I can honestly say that I can't see this Houston team as constructed winning a championship. Sorry. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, subscribe if you're new, and click the bell to be notified when I upload. Comment down below what you want to see next, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.